The news that academic programs currently being taught at institutions of higher learning have not renewed the accreditation by the National Council for Higher Education caused a stir amongst Ugandan graduates. But what lay at the heart of this debate? Is it that the degrees being taught are unaccredited and their graduates invalidated, or is something more at bay? Tonight on The Spots, my guests are Professor Sarah Ssali, the head of Quality Assurance Committee at Makerere University, and Dr. Lawrence Muganga, the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University. Dr. Ssali and Dr. Muganga, thank you so much for having honored our invitation. A warm welcome to both of you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here.
I would want to begin with you, Dr. Ssali, because you are the head of the Quality Assurance Committee of Makerere University. Mm-hmm. When we were talking about expired degrees, expired courses, I want you to set the stage. What are we talking about? Who was supposed to do what? Mm-hmm. What did they not do? And why?
Thank you very much, Patrick. Good evening, viewers. Setting the stage. Yes. Well, first I would like to say I chair the Quality Assurance Committee of Council. Okay. Otherwise, the Quality Assurance Directorate has a director. Okay. And what are we talking about? Universities run on a serious rigor, on a serious regime of quality assurance, because universities, while being local spaces, they are also they have to be globally competitive. So you have to meet the needs of the two levels, locally relevant, globally competitive. And as a result, modern universities run on a strict internal regulation, a serious a quality assurance regulation system. And this occurs at two levels. You have the internal regulation systems, regulatory systems, and you also have the external regulatory systems. So I think what we recently had was that some programs had not completed the cycle of the external regulatory system by the national regulator, who is the National Council of Science and Technology. I think Dr. Muganga would agree with me, but normally, internally, these processes are always being reviewed, they are always being strengthened, and for VCs like him, actually, quality control is his mandate. Because if you don't do quality control, then what are you doing? You're not in business. So, but because those processes are internal, like in Makerere University, that involves constantly reviewing programs, constantly reviewing and assigning the right people to teach those programs, constantly checking to make sure you have the requisite space in terms of lecture space and in terms of lab space and having teaching materials. But because you are internal, you need an external eye to assure the public, to assure the consumers that actually what they say they are doing is what they're actually doing.
So let me ask a very simple question, Dr. Ssali. What does the accreditation by an external regulator, what value does it add?
Well, it may add a lot of value, but depends on what they are looking for, okay? So, one, it is necessary to have an external regulation, because that's the only way you will assure the consumers of your products that it is good for you to actually be externally regulated. And maybe if I can add that for universities like Makerere, you're not only regulated by the national regulator, we are also regulated by Times Higher Education because we go through that system. We are also regulated by the African Research Universities Alliance, which is ARUA, and we shall go into detail of what that, hope we shall get time to go into the detail of what they actually look for. We are also regulated by things like webmetrics, the different ranking systems we are in. Right now, we are also under the system of the sub-Saharan universities, accreditation systems. We are also going to begin the East African Inter-University Council. So, okay, so now, why I ask that question? Because if the regulatory system that is outside is adding immense value to a student at the university, and if you miss that, what have they missed? I don't think they have missed much, because already...
Dr. Ssali, how can you say it is so important, but if they haven't done their job, then they haven't missed much?
No, because you see, the national regulator, like National Council, is mandated to regulate and allow these institutions to run. So at the start of programs or at the start of institutions, National Council comes in and checks whether you're fit for purpose. Do you have the right space? Do you have the right people? Do you have the right finances and everything?
So now, let me put it like this. The National Council of Higher Education did not do that job of trying to see whether you are fit for purpose. So the students who went through the university system, when the council is not regulating you, what have they missed?
No, they haven't missed much, and this is what I'm trying to...
If they haven't missed much, then why would you have a headache of them regulating us?
No, I think, Kamara, we need to move slowly.
Very good question.
We need to move slowly on this matter. Because
I'm being very simple and very slow.
Yes, and this is what I'm saying, that National Council is not the only regulator. Universities like Makerere undergo, okay? So one, we comply with the National Council because they need to check and see that after a certain period of time, the syllabus has changed, the curriculum has improved. But we would hope that they would do more. And for you to be able to understand that, let us see what the others regulators for.
But you see, why I'm not even going to talk about other regulators, Dr. Ssali, is because there was a case of a Ugandan student who wanted to join Bristol University in the United Kingdom. Okay. And because National Council of Higher Education had said some of these courses had expired, then this gentleman or woman could not get admitted in a university to advance his academic career. Oh yeah,
that was very unfortunate, and I think the debate was settled yesterday in Parliament that courses do not expire. And indeed, courses do not expire. Courses continually improve, okay? So given what we go through to make our systems robust, actually our students haven't missed much. But what was unfortunate is that some courses were labeled as having expired. Okay. Yet some of these courses had, one, gone through the regulatory system up to the end. Some were actually on the way of being regulated. At any time, till like in Makerere, there are 30 programs that are being improved because the process is long.
Okay. Yeah, so Dr. Lawrence Muganga, you're a Vice Chancellor of a university, Victoria University to be exact. I mean, whose job is it to ensure the regulatory system, the national regulatory system, in this case the National Council for Higher Education, liaises with the university? Who is supposed to do that in a university setting, and who, so that we can know who never did their job, who is sleeping on their job?
So now we have a challenge, and all of us at some point we should be responsible for everything we do on a daily basis. Now, when a university or people get together and decide to form a university, I'm talking about the private university. A public university, they have nothing to lose. They can always do whatever they want because at the end of the day, the budget is coming. The private university thrives on the quality they have to deliver, to convince and to make the public understand that there is value for my money if I put my child here. So, now, when someone who sets up a university and National Council comes and checks out everything and says, you know what, you meet the 50%, the minimum requirement for you to really start operating, all right? Now, they are supposed, because if essentially you begin as a provisionally accredited kind of institution, and in other words, they are supposed to handhold you, nurture you, until you become the chartered university. Keep in mind that the public doesn't require charter. They are established by the Act, the law, and they are there, right? But of course, there are fundamentals they have also to meet. Now, once you overcome that nurturing, as an infant, a university that is young, now you have grown to be responsible. You have people like the quality assurance committees, you have a quality assurance person, you have an academic registrar, you, the Vice Chancellor, you have to work hard to ensure that that charter you received is not pulled after the 5 years when they come to inspect you. So you have, once they tell you do the minimum, then you have to make sure that, no, I don't work, for the case of Victoria University, you are told to do the minimum, you go for 90%. Why? Because you're not serving Uganda alone. You're looking outwards. You are trying to make ends meet, to make sure you thrive, not survive, you thrive. So you open the gates to the international community. So you hit the bar a little bit high. National Council wants this, take it a little bit higher.
That's what exactly I was talking about.
Then you are in business. But they have a mandate, which I think we will talk about still using the University and Other Tertiary Institutions Act that is under review right now, that mandate somehow maybe needs to be reviewed and somehow tweaked or changed. They have a mandate to annually solicit a report from every university how you're doing, like implementing whatever you're supposed to be implementing.
If you can pause there, because that's the mandate that I'm interested in. Their role vis-a-vis whether you have done what is expected of you. Let's be a little bit candid. If there's a certain course, maybe you're doing medicine, they want to know, do you have the labs? Do you have the equipment in the labs? Do you have the reagents? Do you have the right personnel, the right professors? Because sometimes we suffer a brain drain. So those are the things they're going to check, I suppose, right?
Essentially,
incidentally, actually, they don't check that. It's largely they're supposed to check that. When they set you up, they check for that. But of course, there's no law which tells them they have to re-accredit programs every 5 years or every 3 years. They sit as a board and they decide what's best for them. But that's why even when you go beyond that, there are many other systems. That's why he's saying that if they say 50, you go 90.
So when Dr. Ssali, and for those who are listening and viewing right now, they want to know, for National Council for Higher Education, if they want to come and assess your work for a particular course, what are they looking
That's
for?
what we were explaining to you, Kamara, that once they have set you up, at least for us in the public institutions, it is incumbent on you to take to them the program. And when you take to them the program, then of course you pay for re-accreditation, as they want to call it, and then they source bids for consultants to come and review. So it's not shocking that actually they'll come back to your institution and get people to review from there. Okay?
So in this case, Dr. Ssali, who didn't do their job? You did not.
You see, the problem is you are looking for someone to incriminate, and that will not make the debate.
Because it's so painful to some Ugandan alumni. The Ugandan alumni who have gone different universities right now are running scared and angry.
No, Patrick, I think it is very, very important for us to set a little bit of this record straight. That there is also the school of thought that person does not exist.
Which person?
The person who said was denied admission from the University of Bristol. There is that school of thought, and we are yet to see if that person can step forward with a rejection from the University of Bristol. Because they have caused this country to talk and discuss something that is not acceptable. Now, the document you saw circulating around the country,
claiming to be Cambridge, was not
claiming
Cambridge.
to come from the University of Cambridge. The Cambridge we know will never issue such a document, and it was a fake document. All right, only that, and we should be really honest here. Only that whoever created that document, they had their own interests, but went to the website of National Council for Higher Education, extracted data that is actually matching what they did, what they published. But it does not belong to National Council. It doesn't belong to University of Cambridge. It was a fabrication, and it has caused us to talk.
So that data that was extracted from the website of the National Council for Higher Education, where I haven't read it myself, but my colleagues and producers have, where they say that the degrees are expired. What are we supposed to? What are we supposed to?
Now this is.
What are we supposed to get from
this?
Is
and a serious matter. Earlier today, yesterday, a staff of mine came to me and said, "Dr. Muganga, I'm worried. Does this mean that now I am a senior 6 leaver? Should I get a program and I enroll?" Because while I was at Makerere, when I enrolled on my program, it had actually completed the cycle of accreditation. That means it was beyond the 5th year granted. So it was in the 6th year, but had not been reassessed to be told to move forward, right? So it is a bigger problem. But let me take you through the process we are talking about, and then to maybe create an understanding that there's nothing like an expired program. Now, if I am going to start a program, a new program, I have to simply do the market survey to understand that there is need for us to start this program, and there is a problem that needs to be addressed. So I put together my faculty, the dean here, then we also bring together some experts those who understand the core business, and if we ask them that if we give you this kind of graduate, which skills are you looking for, the knowledge you're looking for, then they give us that information. They will package it together into something that can be logically understood, and we dispatch it to National Council for Higher Education. Also, for second eye, because sometimes, and that's actually the problem we are having, and I'm going to touch it here, which should be actually this discussion we should be having, not expired or anything. We dispatch it to National Council, and National Council selects a team of experts again. And guess what?
From the universities.
Those experts, again, they pick them from the universities, right? Now, the challenge with that approach, and I need National Council to revise this way of doing business, the challenge when you have a university that is still lagging behind the trends of life we live in, that has been left behind by the times, and you hand them this curriculum to look through it, they are going to bring it down to their level, because that's what they understand. You can't blame them. We see that happen every day. They try to tell you, you know what, for us, an exam should still be 70%. But we are saying, why are you rewarding someone who sits down for 3 hours, and you reward them 70%, and you reward 30% to a person who has been doing work for the last 4 months? So those are the weaknesses they have.
The mode of assessment.
Yes. So now, once you hand it, they bring those experts together. So they look at it. If they still see that there is something lacking, they get back to you. And if they agree, National Council now takes it to their council board, and they accredit. Okay. They send you a letter, give you 5 years. Now, those 5 years, a student enrolls, year 1, year 2, year 3, they graduate. There is a student who will enroll on the 4th year. These students, once they go, even if you never have that program accredited, it will never render these people have expired degrees.
I agree on that one. I understand that one, especially towards the end, towards the lifetime of an accredited, the cycle.
But you are also required on the 4th year.
But Dr. Ssali, maybe, is it a problem of language that people use a word? Instead of saying expired, maybe they should have said under review or something.
Under review,
because I see, is it a problem of language?
One, it's a problem of language, but also two, this is where we need to discuss that mandate, because the law provides for the initial setup and accreditation. It doesn't provide for the re-accreditation. So could National Council be demanding or overstepping their mandate in seeking the 3-year, previously we were doing 3-year, then 5-year. So it's good practice, but it's not backed by law. So if you're going to judge a country to be expired, you need to properly go backing for that.
Let me be maybe a little bit, we need to be fair to National Council. There is an act, the University Act and other tertiary institutions.
But doesn't talk about re-accreditation.
It requires that after a specific period of time, now 5, they have to reassess this program.
Muganga,
not re-accredit. Reassess.
No. But even that period is not in the Act. It is set by the board.
The Act gives them that mandate to determine the time frame they want to reassess.
When the National Council for Higher Education comes to the university to reassess, what are they looking for?
And actually, that's where the problem is. They don't come to the university to reassess.
Those experts, what are they looking for?
No. You take yourself, they are looking at the document. That's why we are into, maybe for you they come and look. For us in Makerere,
we differ with the public and private.
Now for us in Makerere, National Council sits in National Council. So the process moves from the department to the school, to the Senate, to the council, to everything.
So it's very demanding.
Then, it takes like almost a year plus. Then you carry it and take it to National Council. Then National Council finds this team of experts. Sometimes they run bids in the papers. And then they find this team of papers and send them to you, wherever you may be. And then you read through, and this is where he's saying, well, person, now do this, do that, change this, comma, change that. But you see, international best practices, once you accredit the institution,
That's true.
And the program. The rest you do is the regulator. You do on-spot checks to check whether systems have been put in place to maintain quality control.
We actually expected
you don't just wait to sit and read curriculum and then check where there's a comma and a full stop.
No. On the contrary,
how about private universities?
Let me tell you the version.
What do they do?
Let me tell you the version. Maybe that's some level of laxity that is happening because they think the public institutions have everything. Now, for me, they will come and they will ask.
Because you're new.
They will ask, Do you have a laboratory? Yes, show us. And they will tour. How many microscopes do you have? Okay, depending on how many students you have on the program. No, they are not enough. Purchase more. Okay, this room, how big is it? Like square meters? They even bring someone with to measure. And they take what? Those notes. And then they say, okay, this one we are allowing you to teach 400 students on the program. So they come. They do all that, all right? And that's fine. But I also agree with Dr. Sarah.
If you can pause there,
yes.
If that's what they do,
in the private,
in the private university, and, and most of them have a lot of private universities now, and if that is not done, how are we sure about your products?
No, we believe that's okay. It should be done.
It should be done.
But in this case, like Dr. Muganga, in this case, they're telling us that element was skipped.
No, we have to also be fair. It is the issue of capacity. How many universities do we have? How many programs? All the programs put together could be like 10,000.
Correct.
For all the universities. What capacity does National Council have in terms of staffing? That's why they run bids for people to help them even review written things. So they don't have the capacity. So they outsource from the same institutions where the programs are coming from. And maybe that's why they decide that because Victoria is new, let's go and measure. But because Makerere has been there, maybe we don't need to measure. So it's an issue of capacity and an issue of resources.
And Patrick, understand this.
Yeah.
That when National Council for Higher Education accredits a program for the first time, they accredit on a minimum requirements. And they set out that everything is in place. Now, I am wondering what happens in their minds to think that the things you saw last time have since disappeared. And we need to come back again and re-accredit the process.
Because it's possible that we have a brain drain, professors move.
You know what changes? You know what changes?
The intake can increase and then you don't have the capacity.
You know what changes? Those are valid reasons. But what changes is that the economy changes every day. Technology changes every day. And you're right, those things happen. But when you send this document to National Council, so there are times when you can even wait for, they tell you that in 6 months, we'll get back to you. But you can wait for a year and a half,
even 2 years.
So has that
but
been the case?
It comes back. Hear this, what Dr. Sarah has said. It is also us, we don't have to be really, really unfair to this magnitude. You cannot expect to milk a cow 100 liters when you're not feeding it. National Council is overstretched. I think they have around between 40 to 50 staff. Do you know how many institutions we have in this country? If you look at that list that was fabricated, the institutions were okay. Around the country, there are over about 300 institutions.
Because they're talking about tertiary.
Universities and tertiary. Now, if you add the programs they run in all these institutions, you're talking about 20,000, 30,000. And these people, their mandate is to traverse the entire country. The 40 people, including the ED.
So your explanation is that the problem is bigger than we think.
Government.
But the programs are not expired.
Government needs.
Well, there's somebody who's supposed to regulate you does not have enough capacity.
Has no capacity.
Now, Kamara, that's why.
What should I read into that?
That's why the universities, like he told you, National Council says for you 50. You do 90. That's why universities register into other accreditation systems to be globally competitive.
Okay.
So while National Council is looking at the lab,
I just want you, Dr. Ssali, because to look into the camera. You know why I'm saying that? Because you have people who are scared. You have people who are right now are angry. But as somebody who's the chairperson of the committee of the council on quality assurance,
yes.
What do you tell that person who's looking at you and may probably wanted even to come back to the alma mater?
I would tell that person that there is no expired program in Makerere University or anywhere in many of these countries. And it was a problem of nomenclature, which was actually sorted yesterday. There is no expired program. But programs get reviewed. Actually, every semester we review programs. Although the regulator may look at them after 5 years, we review programs every semester. That's why we audit before we start, we audit at the end, and we have very many other engines that audit us globally.
So at the beginning of this program, you talked about other entities that also you work with. The Africa University review something. Now you want to get into the stuff. How do other entities work in terms of reviewing the university?
they look for more than the parameters National Council may look for. They look at things like Times Higher Education would want to look at the proportion of student to staff ratio. They may look at how many professors do you have, how many of these are male or female, how are you fulfilling or complying to the SDGs. They will look at how many of your professors are cited. They look at your citation index. They will look at your publication index. They will look at your research collaborations, nationally, Africa-wide, and internationally. They will look at the nature of those collaborations and how equitable they are. They will look at the revenue. So there's a lot of things universities are meeting every day from these different regulatory entities.
There's one thing that I know, which is maybe a fact, that when a Ugandan graduate goes for maybe a master's or a PhD in Europe, in America, or Australia, in most cases, they will perform fairly well or even on top of their class. Well. In most cases. And all, the two of you could be an example. That you perform on top of their class. That's almost a given, a Ugandan
That's
graduate.
very true, but I'll tell you why. I have tested both systems. Here, you are taught to work very hard. You get whatever you get the harder way. You have institutions here who find it even a crime to give 100% to a student.
Even when you deserve it.
In this country. Even a teacher is proud that telling the student, how do you get 100%? Now you have the other system that says, okay, as long as you do something, you are supposed to be rewarded. Show some effort. And you have understood something. You start with 100% going down. You don't start from 1 going up. So that is the reward system. So for us, we work harder. When you reach here, you remember the misery you went through in this system. The other one is a walkover. Yeah. All right? So, but we should really, like you told Ugandans who are worried, Ugandans should not worry about those things that have been actually moving around. There is nothing that can expire a degree. That is, and we should accept responsibility. National Council, you erred on that, and you put some word expired. It should maybe something under review or due for review or something like that. We don't have to wait for Parliament to teach you how to do the right job. We are educators. We are in education. Our job is to craft an education that works for people. Right now, we would be seated here having a different conversation. Now we are talking about expired degrees. Yet, even the people who have these valid degrees at home, almost 150 that emerge out of these more than 200 institutions are seated at home, have no hope of having a job. That is a discussion we should have. How do we craft and recraft? Someone will even tell you, my program is accredited, it is valid and everything. But what is the fate of a graduate who will leave that program? Can we do something about that? Today we live in a digital economy. I'll tell you of, and these should be really examples, that you can talk about, I am an educated person, I have published, I have written books, and as professors we pride ourselves in how many scholarly work you have put out there, and even the people who promote us first look at that. But how many Ugandans are reading that work? Like it is just, you're populating the internet, value for money, zero, impact, zero, almost. Now, can we rethink the way we even develop and promote our faculty? Can we rethink even the content we are talking about? Right now, I'll tell you about a young lady that amazes me. She's an amazing nanny. Her name is Ida, working for a friend of mine. This girl stopped school from senior 4. But the way she knows how to do research on the internet, how she navigates all the digital platforms in this world, a graduate from any university here would struggle, right? So we say we are still pumping something we call knowledge in our graduates.
You see, that's an indictment on
the system. Yes, I am telling
where
you.
Are,
now that is
where you are vice chancellor.
That's what I'm telling you.
Because why are you sending us people who would struggle?
That's what I'm telling you.
And yet somebody, you're just a reference you're making is that somebody smarter who has not even gone to university.
Very good question, and that's how us Victoria University we're reinventing the model. And we are not, and we are very, very proud not to be associated with any other university in whatever they are doing. We have decided to do something that works for the day-to-day common person and reinvent education how it looks.
Dr.
Right?
Ssali.
Yes, and I want to say that even the others really try to be locally relevant. Maybe if I can explain what we mean by stakeholder analysis, which he referred to in the beginning. Each time you are expected to go back to the consumers of your product. For us, these are line ministries, which are within the sector. These are NGOs or community-based groupings, depending on what your discipline is. Alumni, because they give us feedback on what we did or didn't do right. Then also existing students. So you go this, and this give you feedback on how to do things differently. Actually, some of that curriculum, before we send it to National Council, we give it to these people to read, and they tell you, here you make sense, here you don't make sense. But to go beyond that, of course, the issue of unemployment is not just an issue of universities. It is also an issue of the nature of the economy. Our economies are still young, and our economies are still small. But what has the African Union been doing? We are having, because given that most of the other regulatory entities and the ranking systems have been international, we are having the Sub-Saharan Index coming up, which is also trying to look at how locally relevant these are. You have the Association of African Research Universities Alliance, ARUA, which unfortunately talks to the big universities on the continent, but with time they want actually to make us think locally relevant. There's an AU fund. Even now the East African community is also introducing its own ranking system. But beyond that, we also have
gatekeepers.
Yes, because everyone wants to make sure we are relevant to the continent. But also beyond that, lastly, Kamara, is you have professional bodies. These are the people who certify your product or refuse to certify it if you haven't done a good job. Okay. And they look at your curriculum, they look at your practice.
Yes. Dr. Ssali and Dr. Muganga, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's try to understand more. People have criticized that today we don't only have a problem of unemployment, but also our graduates are unemployable. We'll be right back.
That's exactly.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Dr. Sarah Ssali, School of Women and Gender Studies, College of Humanities and Social Science from Makerere University, and Dr. Lawrence Muganga, Vice Chancellor, Victoria University. You know, I just want to go beyond the expiry of degrees and all this to another, because you introduced it. Yes. And Dr. Ssali, there has been criticism today that we don't only have a problem of unemployment in Uganda, but that even our graduates are unemployable. In other words, they are challenging the universities on matters of quality education. What do you say?
I don't think they are, thank you, Patrick, but I don't think they are challenging universities on matters of quality, because most of those people are not even from the university. But I think they are challenging the education system, on the kind of education system we have, which has been largely rote learning from the lower level, that by the time people go, first of all, people have to stay longer in school so as to be even employable. And some years back, the World Bank did a Human Development Index, where a systematic country diagnostic, that's what they called it, where they actually said that most of, first of all, we're a young population, but most of our people are unschooled, unemployable, unskilled. So they had all those terms. I don't think it's just an indictment on universities. But what can we do differently? I think what is happening now, I mean, we have a very young population. Africa has a very young population. And you have very few people who are actually earning the money and likely to employ others. So you have all these issues taking place, and what now the continent is exploring is what they call entrepreneurial universities that focus on skills, other than the universities which were focusing just on as a continuation of the rote learning model. But for this to happen, universities will have to be equipped differently. They will need more laboratories, they will need more resources, they will need a lot of more things. Yeah. So it's not an issue of the universities, but it's also the issue of the economy. Universities have reinvented themselves, okay? You also have to look at the consumption side.
So Dr. Muganga, in your earlier submission, you actually gave an example of a nanny for your friend, who is very skilled in her,
she knows what is
and then doing. You said you cannot even compare.
Yeah,
sometimes some cases.
So you don't need a university from his perspective.
But I was wondering, how can the Vice Chancellor be saying something like that?
Yet
you're in the business of skilling Ugandan.
I'll tell you, well, let's call a spade a spade. When you're going to treat a particular illness, first do the diagnosis and understand it and be frank about it. Don't just go there and they say, I feel headache, when actually it's your foot that is actually damaged. No, be frank. Let me tell you, the truth is, we have a system that is still telling students, sit in front of your desk, here is an exam, don't turn that question paper until you are told to do so. It is now 9 a.m., an answer sheet is there, turn it upside down, there is a pen, start writing.
So you're teaching students to pass exams,
when you
but
come
not
to
equipping them with knowledge and skills.
To the real world, you, Kamara, and if you want, you have a staff you're supervising, if they're giving you a story, you want it typed, you don't want it written. But we are still pumping, we are demanding our students to handwrite. That, we banned that from Victoria University. We don't do that. But we should agree that our system, look at what is happening elsewhere. You sit a student in a classroom Monday to Friday. The unlucky ones even go until to Saturday. And you expect them, and that is 3 years throughout. Maybe a break of 2 months, then they have that. You have sat them in a classroom for 3 years, and you expect them to graduate and do something.
How are you doing it differently?
They don't even know the real world. Let me tell you what we do at Victoria University. We have actually created, you can call it inventing, what we call the VU block model. So we say, you will come to our university, period. If you wish, come to our university, but we only need you in our class 15 hours a week. The rest of the hours of the week, we are going to help you, place you somewhere. You don't have to need payment from this person, but you're going to need another form of payment, experience, if you already don't have something like that. And we are also saying that...
That's like a continuous internship of sorts.
Exactly. You want this person to complete school. They have their credential, but they also have something very important, 3 years of experience to work somewhere, or they're already working somewhere, or they can create something. Now, for people like you, Kamara, for people like Professor Sarah, we are saying maybe you're seated in your office and you're still wanting to study something. Because we are saying that the block model requires you to come and pursue one module a month. Everyone at our university, pursue one module a month. So even these people who are already working, do you want to improve in some area? Yes. You don't need the entire degree. Come sit in a month, get the skills you need, the competencies, the mastery you need, go back and do your job. So micro-credentials. Any learning that has to happen should mirror the real world. Otherwise, this kind of learning, sitting in an artificial world, and you're expecting people to get out, and then all of a sudden they become competent, they have the skills, but you have never given them any skills.
So how do you...
What qualification do they get at the end?
Which ones?
The ones who come for one module?
No, for example, Professor Sarah, you came to our university, you have some experiential gap or skill gap in something. You can even join, for example, if it's an MBA, for example, specifically you need strategic management.
Just one module.
Do it, get certified for that 1 month you did your module. Go and do your work. Because you're a professor. So the issue,
the issue is not for you to present a paper somewhere. No. The issue is for you to have a skill
and competence
for your own benefit.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then Makerere has a lot of external programs which run like that, because people are working most of the time. When they are in holidays, when they can pass by. Then they have the internship programs for the young ones. In the long vacation, the bachelor's holders, they go to the field and they are placed. Then you have incubation.
The question is how long?
Yes, okay, for the long vacation.
Exactly.
Then we have also incubation centers that the university is starting, where whoever has an idea can go and have something. Then you have the entrepreneurship center in the College of Business, which works with our students together with people either from Kalero or whatever, people in SMEs, and they do work collaboratively. So these are initiatives which are coming up and they are going on, but of course being a public university, there is a speed at which you have to move. Remember, we have a regulator.
So Dr. Muganga, how do you reconcile these facts
now
that some people are critical about the education system and our graduates, but the same people when you compare them with the other top universities in the world, you will graduate on top of your class.
Exactly.
How do you consider
But Kamara, there's just one other thing. Yes. I think as employers, it is true that some of our people are ill-equipped when they leave universities. We need more skilling. That one we cannot deliberate. We accept. But also the employers are not ready to actually train people. They want ready-made goods. Now, remember when we were, I don't know when you were at undergraduate, when we were at undergraduate, UMI, for example, was IPA, whereby after you had gone through the theoretical degree, you went there and you learned how to work in a particular space, whether you're becoming a cow, whether you're becoming a whatever. Now you have employers who want ready-made things. And to be sincere and honest about our students are learning a lot. In addition to the degree, they are doing a small computer course. In addition to that, they are learning some Kiswahili there. They are learning some, they are trying to improve themselves. Actually, our students are living with more skills than people in the past left with, but they are not ready to be trained. The employer is not ready to train them.
On the contrary, on the contrary, let me tell you, every company you see in this country has been hit by COVID. They have laid off people. Right now they need free labor, and that's what we have exploited. You find one organization is giving 170 slots for all the year to have these students working like 3 days there, but they come back 2 days to do their schooling. But we also need help, Kamara. National Council for Higher Education. We talked about the things they review. Now you find National Council comes with a list and they tell you, I need a physical library, right? A physical library where you have the books that can last there for 10 years. The world does not wait for books of 10 years. Things change in a supersonic speed.
We are moving to digital libraries
you want to take education to people in the community, education to find them there, and someone is asking you to have a physical library, right? It is really, they should also up their game. Resemble like the economy we are in right now. The employers out there, it is a matter of sitting them down and you say, look, education is not a game of the Minister of Education, it's not a game of university.
The issue of investment is also important in
an
institution.
Yes.
So the library is needed and other things. Because I remember there was a book written by Professor Mahmoud Bamdan.
Yeah.
I think Scholars in the Marketplace.
Yes.
And Scholars in the Marketplace, I think he was talking about how, the privatization and how it has in a way taken away some kind of quality in the education system.
Yeah, but that's the monster we are trading with right now. Now, when you sit down with these CEOs, you tell them, look, at the end of the day, you need labor, and it has to be trained. So education is not for me, the Vice Chancellor alone, or for Professor Sarah, or for Kamara, or the Minister of Education. Education is the responsibility of all of us. This is what I'm going to do, but help me co-educate this student. At the end of the day, you may not take them, but Dr. Sarah will take them, or another person. Then all of us, we are winners. So education should stop being one that happens in the classroom.
Yes.
It should also go back to the real world and solve problems.
In the real world, there must be opportunity for those students to do the experiential learning.
Correct.
When they're there. But if you have a small economy where they are even, those who graduated have nowhere to go, getting slots, maybe for you, you've been lucky.
No. You know what happens again? It is a mindset we need to change, and Ugandans need to understand this, and the Education National Council also needs to understand whatever they compare on us, assessment needs to be innovation driven. Okay? The day we stop looking at an exam as a success story, that's how we'll have liberated this country. Look at an assessment that drives the student to create an innovation and reward that. Then you are going to come up with job creators. They're creating simple startups, employ themselves. As things widen, grow bigger, they employ others. But right now, we are really, so many universities are producing book experts. People who are business administrators, but cannot even own a kiosk.
And you know
someone is doing international business but doesn't even know where a forex bureau is. But that's the kind of graduate you see.
An indication of that is each time you see a country with very many universities and people learning longer period of time, that's an indicator of unemployment. Because in countries where there are so many opportunities, people don't stay in school for that long.
Thank you.
I was
That's
in the UK, standard people drop out at 16, work, return at 25 after they've explored the world and now have chosen the course. So if you don't have an economy to absorb people, people will stay in school longer. So as with the universities are reinventing themselves every day, the economy also has to do something. Those who manage the economy have to do something to absorb these people.
Is the problem also with us, the parents? What kind of children are we sending to you?
No, some of you...
Because if we have not nurtured from home, from early child education, from secondary, sometimes people come to university with impeccable, credentials in terms of what they've achieved, AAA and BBB and whatever.
Take them to schools where they can get grades.
Yeah, maybe is the problem deeper, even before university, that we are not sending you people
and that's what we are saying,
prepared enough.
People, universities may shy away from this role. And we can start blaming primary, secondary, but we should accept the responsibility that now. For us, any student coming to us is nearer entering the workplace. So we should do our best to convert these people into employable material. Now, parents, like I said, education is not a single person's
I think, Dr. Lawrence,
responsibility.
There is a problem at the lower level because
it is there.
What explains, Dr. Ssali, the need for pre-entry exams?
Oh.
No, national exams.
No,
national exams.
No, previously there used to be national exams, and they were doing well. We all went through national exams, the three of us.
But where is your PhD certificate?
But now pre-entry is a new thing, because actually people who are going through the national exams were still struggling in spite of the good grades they had.
This is what I'm talking about, the problem being at the lower level.
If you have a course like law and you have your AAA and you go there and then you're struggling with the language and it seems to run on a particular language, so until you change how law is taught, that student will struggle. So that's why they do the pre-entry exams. But also going back to what you had asked earlier, it is the way the university is designed. That the university is designed for free thinkers, for free critical thinkers, for people who are fairly. That's why in secondary school people are going to lock you up at what time you sleep. In a university you're expected to be an adult. And yet these people are coming from more controlled homes, from more controlled schools, where there has been no independent decision making in when do I read, how do I read. Everything has been driven from P1. So now when they come to universities, we are letting people free, yet these people had never learned to be free, to take charge of themselves. So maybe the universities need to, I don't know what we are going to do differently.
Do you know who bears that responsibility? I have been saying this in a different way, and I am going to say it here tonight again. Do you realize when a criminal has been taken to court, or an allegation, someone who is alleged to have committed something is taken to court, and the judge sends them to Luzira.
You blame the judge.
They feel bad that they are going to where? Luzira. When you hear your person going to Luzira, you will do everything, sell everything to rescue them and get a bond, right? And yet, you can also allow to go and visit him at some point. But we are busy, willingly, escorting our kids to boarding schools, and we're even paying millions to keep them there, and visiting that they will come, we are going to go there, and we are taking them out of the real world, keeping them, segmenting them somewhere where they are with their age mates,
safe spaces,
learning on a timed kind of regime, and at the end of the day, you want them to come and fit in the world properly, in the real world, and you want them to be productive, yet we have killed almost their 18 years of life.
I want to agree with you. Mr. Fajil Mande runs some training courses once a year at Kitante Primary School. And at one point, he's getting the students from different parts of Kampala. So, and he tells the parents, this evening, please do not pick your children. I will bring them myself. So he gives each child money. Where are you coming from? Buziga. Where are you from? Muyenga. Where are you? Kansanga.
Yes. Where? Find your way home.
Find your way home.
At least.
And this is the story. So one of the child goes home and doesn't find the mother. She knows that the mother is somewhere in Wandega at a saloon and goes to the saloon. And then the mother sees the child. Moreover, these are senior 4, senior 5. And the child at the saloon said, how did you come here? Said, Fajil, what did you do to me? You know,
now you realize?
We, the parents, I want to agree with you. Sometimes we're just too soft.
Yeah.
And we are not preparing the children for the real world. And no wonder when we have citizens who cannot...
For all the 15 years...
The blame is also in the family.
You have kept a child out of the real world where they are able to learn from an adult, from their age mate, from a young one, and know all the social skills. You're keeping them in another paid-for prison for all those years. And then we are blaming universities and we're blaming government.
So it is also possible. It's also possible, Dr. Ssali,
think through this
that we could
system.
be having students in Kampala who have reached university, maybe because they come from affluent family, but they don't know where there's a taxi stage.
Correct.
They don't know where there's a bus park.
Yes.
They don't know where there's how you get into a taxi. They don't know all these things. Maybe they even don't know how to buy something in the market.
They may not even know how to make friends, because you see, in a society like this one,
and that is a problem,
your social capital counts more than the money you have in the pocket.
Your network is your net worth.
Exactly.
But we have never... So they are networking with a 12-year to another 12-year, a 16-year to another 16-year. But why can't they be in normal human being setting? They can meet Kamara, tells them about how the news happens in any media station. They come meet professor, tells them about gender issues and how they be solved. That's the real world. That's where they belong, not in those artificial prisons of theirs called boarding schools. Why is it that all sane...
I know of a professor actually who has even taken the children to Canada instead of Uganda. But
yes, but in Canada they are going to learn to be on their own, because
be on their own.
Yes, they will learn to be independent.
They are paying rent as sent by the parent.
Yes.
They are learning how to be adults. They are going to know how to shop. They are going to get 3 jobs.
Yes.
Now you're getting a complete or all-rounder human being.
Yes.
So, you know, I happened to be, there was a debate at Makerere University a couple of years back, which I attended and in that debate we had the late Professor Ali Mazrui. And Professor Ali Mazrui was talking about his time at Makerere University, that there would be a time when there's a debate at the university hall, that sometimes students would even skip dinner so that you can get the row front seat to take part in that intellectual exchange. That the hunger for education, for intellectual knowledge was high. Dr. Ssali, that hunger is almost not non-existent now. It is, but in very low quality.
Banned out.
I think the challenges of existence. Well, it is true during Professor Mazrui's time, that was it. It was also the case during our times. I mean, we even struggled to enter the library, to book the library. Remember when it would close at 5 and open at 7? But now... That
hunger, what happened?
Well,
hunger for knowledge, for intellectual
One thing that we have to know is that this country underwent neoliberalism. Now, in undergoing neoliberalism, it came together with what we call marketable skills. People want to do things which will translate, not sit in a lecture, and people asking what is in it for me. If I go and sit in your lecture for this number of hours, what will I gain when I could have been doing something else that is more fruitful? So kids are being raised. One, they are not critical readers, they are not critical thinkers, and we have a challenge to do something about that. I'm not escaping that. And then you have people sitting, not knowing the value of these things. Yet, actually, when you go abroad, these are the real things. But you also mentioned something about scholars in the marketplace.
Yeah,
so the other question
Professor
you may ask is, I know in the university we are trying, there's a lot of seminars taking place all the time and presentation taking place. But there's a time also those died down because people were very busy teaching. The students were very many. If you have a class of 1,000, or you have a class of 500, or you have a class of 2,000, you may not have time to attend a lecture or prepare to give a lecture. You're permanently assessing. And you know, you can now not do the experiential learning that Victoria may be doing, because you have to have a coursework before you, as you're through with the 500 scripts, there's another group coming in. Then you're through with those ones, and yet now, of course, we are trying to explore to go more blended, more online, which actually gives people opportunity to think beyond a question and an answer. So
you are the chairperson of the Council's Quality Assurance Committee. You really have a lot of work, don't you?
And do you realize what we'll hear you from
okay,
that
Dr. Lawrence and Dr. Ssali, Dr. Muganga and Dr. Ssali, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have your views and your comments and your questions on our WhatsApp number. Please bring them. And I urge you to be civil. Even when you disagree with us, that's okay, because that's the nature of debate. But please disagree with respect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Dr. Sarah Ssali from Makerere University and Dr. Lawrence Muganga, Vice Chancellor of Victoria University. This is the moment when you have to have your say. you see our number on the screen. You can pick your phone and call us, but also you can send your messages or comments or questions. I'll be able to read them for our guests to respond. I've already seen somebody who was asking that, where does the money that we pay, I think this was a student, for the National Council for Higher Education, where does it go and what does it do? Who would want to attempt? Do students pay money for?
Yes, they are mandated to pay 20,000 Ugandan shillings, and they pay it direct to URA. Okay, URA collects it. And by the way, to be honest, and this is an advice for National Council, most students are not, ever since they moved that payment to URA, that means you remain on the mercy of the university to help you remind the students to pay. Some of them don't pay. So they have to find a way of re-emphasizing. Of course, they have to do it through us, but they are not collecting that money. But some of it they are not collecting. But to those that, they collect, like I said, these people are overstretched. The capacity is very limited. They need more people in terms of human resource to be able to traverse the country. If you're going to really quality assure institutions that are about 300 with almost 30,000 programs that have to be re-accredited every year, just imagine it, 30,000 programs, and they have a life cycle of 5 years. Now, just see the multiplier effect. Professor
Muganga, you have something called the Vice Chancellor's Forum, and I'm sure you're a member. When you sit, what do you discuss?
My friend, Anna, there is let's look at it this way. There is what we call the ideal world, and there is also the real world. You can discuss and discuss until cows come home, but there are things that are going to remain the way they remain. Now, much as we can discuss, we are in a Vice Chancellor's Forum. Do you want us to create a budget and donate money to National Council for Higher Education? So the cow needs to be fed. And if they are helped, we will also be helped.
But Mr. Kamara, there is a petition I saw with students, of the Guild students, and they were saying, one, they pay 20,000, and when they did their math, they said that came to something like 3.2 billion. Then they argued, or they alleged, that in addition to that, the National Council is funded by the Consolidated Fund to the tune of 10 billion. And then they said, in addition to that, those who bring programs have to pay per program from a range of 800,000 shillings to 7 million shillings. So to the students, National Council has too much money. What are they doing with it? And that's why they took a resolution that their council chairpersons should stop insisting that they pay the 20,000, because in any case, nothing good has come out of it from their view, but also they feel the National Council has too much money. Why should they continue charging for programs when actually they have all that money?
So but do you realize now that many individuals, entities will take you to court?
No, but look at because of that submission of the people who submission of people who petitioned, somehow it lacks a little bit of some information. Now, the money we pay for accreditation to National Council for Higher Education, if you take a program there, the 700 or 800, the 7 million, it goes back to our very lecturers, the faculty that they use to review these programs. They have to be paid.
Wait a minute. So sometimes they can use the very university stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not sometimes.
The ones who do the time.
Then how do you avoid the conflict of interest?
Exactly. That's a system that needs to be revamped.
That's why we need to ask your issue of value add, but I'm happy to know that when they go to Professor Muganga, they do the measurement.
They do those things.
But otherwise, the same people come up with a program, then they come back to a sister university.
Like right now, I'm working on a pharmacy program, but they have advised to create a lab, and I've ended up almost creating one of the largest, best equipped laboratory in the country. And because I know they will come, I have to make sure that A is there, B is there, to Z. So, because they will come and check. Now, what they do elsewhere, but that money we pay for program accreditation is just, again, paid back to the people, the experts they use to review these programs. So they don't keep that money.
That's why, Mr. Kamara, we are saying that if the expertise is within the universities, and these universities, the institutions have gone through the process, Why then should it be a mandate of national? Why shouldn't it be official that my program, so that we know that it has gone to Victoria, other than National Council pretending to be reviewing the program, but actually we are the same people reviewing it back end.
But what you said, the conflict of interest, is a
but
big
there was a
problem.
time when, and not very recently, when universities were self-accrediting.
In many places, they are self-accrediting, actually.
So
That's the
and
establishment.
you are still doing that at your own level.
And actually,
Best case practices, they self-accredit after the initial accreditation.
Professor Sarah said it earlier. In most developed world, in the developed world, once an accrediting institution accredits a university, the rest is self-accreditation. Now, look what we are talking about. We earlier talked about expired degrees. The University and other tertiaries, other tertiary institutions Act came in place in 2001. Prior to that, so many people got degrees. And do you know who was regulating? It was the University Senate and the Council.
Yeah, those are
and some people can argue, can argue that the degrees of that time are better than the degrees of today. I don't know. There is a context, and I don't want to go through that. But if that time those universities could self-regulate, what has changed now?
What has changed, yeah.
Okay, so, well, for those who, you know, there are people who are, and there are people who are going to have a problem because of what has gone on when they're trying to seek a job, or maybe they want to advance their academic
But
career.
that's why we are calling upon
National Council.
Professor Sarah said earlier that this debate was settled by Parliament, but it doesn't have to stop there. We need the government, we are requesting government to issue a bold statement, because we have a problem. Don't even think about these people seeking for jobs. There are people in Nigeria, in South Sudan, in Angola that have been bringing their students to study in Uganda. Right now, every time they type something, Ugandan education, a degree program, they are telling them degrees expire. So now they divert their students elsewhere. So this has really, really worked against our country, and the government needs to pronounce itself, a bigger statement, and let us push it viral. It should become a campaign to clean up this mess that happened.
And in addition to that, we need to be aware that university education is competitive. So that statement was very, very unpatriotic, because those who would have desired to take Uganda's education system down, so as to stop this trafficking of people into Makerere, into Victoria, into KIU, now have it all because the national regulator has done it for them. So now other countries will posture, and Uganda's education system is being taken. So it's a very unpatriotic move that was taken.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we're having a technical issue, having your comments come in and your questions, and for that matter, I'm going to be, well, there's somebody who just sent a question and said, you know what, I did a course, I think was a veterinary, and that when I go to the field, I find myself having issues to do the real practical work. And that was the, I've just seen it coming in the feed there. Somebody saying that went through university, did vet, but in the field, they find it very difficult.
Wow.
Yeah, but
they've gone through the university education, but
Mr. Kamara,
he finds things are very different.
Would that really surprise anyone? You have been seated in a classroom Monday to Saturday for 3 years or 4 years. You have 0 years of experience. Then where are you going to get this experience?
But also the other thing is vet medicine is very practical, and actually there are so many attempts to make it practical. But I think we also have a tendency of focusing on what's not working. Have you tried to look at how many vets are succeeding from these institutions? There are very many successful vets.
Well, I'm not critical of these programs. Neither am I critical of what you're teaching. I'm only trying to say that something came through the feed.
But the message,
as a comment.
So we appreciate
the simple message, and what we should be doing is that every curriculum we develop, we should marry it with the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but less than that, we will continue doing what? We will continue having these excuses. We will continue saying that people don't have jobs. We will continue definitely whining, saying that government should create all the jobs. There is no government that will create all the jobs in the world, you know. But we have to create graduates that can do something.
That can fit in the situation as it is.
Exactly.
Okay, I just want to make sure I read some comments and questions coming in from those who are have been following this program, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your company, for those who have been with us. Let me begin with Heskes from Chiwatula. He said, I'd like to ask those educationists, explain to me why it's only in Europe they consider our degrees than other continents. I don't know what Heskes you mean. Of course, it was in Europe where apparently the problem came from. And thank you for the show. I'm Isaac in Kabale. I did veterinary medicine, but practically, I can't handle field cases. Our education system always focuses on CGPA. And that's a question I brought earlier because I had seen it come in the field, and this is what I asked earlier. Maybe Dr. Muganga or Dr. Ssali, you respond to that. Okello Patrick from Busega says the discussion is in light the challenges, showing the challenges our institutions of learning are facing. The children just receive but rarely participate, and most of them find difficulties even in expressing themselves in public. We need to change the education approach, otherwise it's going down. And Dr. Muganga talks about taking education to the people, Does that include the e-learning introduced by the likes of Victoria University and Cavendish University? During the COVID times, all universities embraced e-learning. Many have since gone back to the physical lectures where they stopped by National Council for Higher Education. This is Emmanuel Ngonda in Mbale City. Louis Kizito says, I remember meeting my former principal at Makerere School of Law last year. I asked him why Makerere Law School doesn't have a specialized master's program. Not every lawyer that goes back to a master's seeks to be an academic. Most want to expose themselves to emerging areas for business reasons. Unfortunately, he said that certain things are out of control of even college principal. I'm not surprised the law degree was last reviewed in 2012. And somebody says, I think we need to incorporate life skills learning, i.e. public speaking, self-esteem, etc. And somebody also say, what would these scholars suggest the best education would be in comparison to the clerical education that we have in Uganda? I'm going to take just one more and then we'll wrap it up. Kindly ask the two guests to talk about the higher education certificate for grade 3 teachers. Has it been approved by the National Council of Higher Education? I wonder whether you have answers for that. Please, you could respond, Dr. Ssali and Dr. Muganga, as we conclude our program tonight.
So let me begin with quickly the higher education certificate for which was created by National Council for Higher Education. Is it approved? I mean, can it help grade 3 teachers? And I'm sure those people are really in huge need, grade 3 teachers, because the time is running out for them to convert their grade 3 certificates or grade 5 into a bachelor's degree according to the teacher policy. So there is an opportunity for them to come to the university, if you came to Victoria, for example, and pursue a higher education certificate. So from the higher education certificate, you may even choose to go the mature age entry, or come to the HEC, the higher education certificate. After that, you transition yourself into a bachelor's degree program. Okay. So that is approved by National Council, and it is acceptable. So again, someone talked about incorporating life skills in the curriculum. Now, maybe something I didn't share when you asked that, what do you do at Victoria University? We have a unique module we call career readiness and employability, compulsory to be done by everyone on any program. Why? Because you can have all the subject matter of these courses and everything, but there are certain things you need in real life, at the workplace, how you live, like financial literacy, how to even relate with others, so that you must really be part of that. We even went, we are now contemplating as a Senate and a Council, that can we say that for a student from Victoria University to graduate, you either have created something or you have a job. Then you can leave our university. So that is another policy we are trying to look at. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. A couple of comments, so how would you respond?
Yes, thank you. I didn't get the question on why the degrees are considered in Europe, but what I can say is that actually many universities in the world consider a Ugandan education very high, especially Makerere. They will consider Makerere to be top-notch. So I remember when I went to the UK, at the time when others would have to be coming into the Cambridges and the Edinburghs with 90%, they would take a Makerere 60 because they knew that Makerere 60 would finish with the 90. So
it
there's
was
a
misery to get a 60.
Yes, but actually the 60 used to be the best in our times.
I agree.
But they still took you when they were turning down an Indian of 80 because they believed that this person will perform. And indeed, we never disappointed them. So there's a lot of faith in the Ugandan education system, especially in Europe, because they know what we go through. About the vet thing, we had already discussed it, and I said there are many vets who are successful out there and are not complaining, but we appreciate that there's this one person who says he never had the skills, and I know vet is a very practical subject. So we need to find out how much time this person accorded to the classes. And maybe just one thing also about the specialized masters. They are developing it. The School of Law is developing two specialized masters programs, and I think that should be able to address the matters they are raising. There's also development of the diplomas for the teachers in addition to the higher school education certificate. And about getting an appropriate education system, the universities are at the tail end of this matter. I think it needs to be holistic beyond the universities.
Patrick, someone asked a very interesting question. Why are we concentrating on CGPAs?
Yes.
The truth is, so many employers today no longer look at these transcripts. They are looking at what you can do with what you know. Life skills back, practicals, experience. Experiential learning should be embedded.
I think it's
in
both.
What we
they
do.
Look at both, actually.
Yeah.
All right, I want to thank you so much for the time you've given us. You've added value to our platform. At least you've allayed our fears. But we can know, so if you have studied and have knowledge, that knowledge cannot expire. I think I want to agree with you. It is a question of language that was used on the website. And since maybe Ugandans shouldn't get worried about what happened. And also to know that the challenges are there, but the challenges are being addressed. What's going to be your concluding remark, Dr. Ssali?
Well, my concluding remark is to assure Ugandans that Uganda still has one of the best education systems around. We let them not lose hope, let them not lose confidence, and everyone's doing their level best. Accreditation takes place all the time. The institutions do their level best every time to ensure that they do quality control. Actually, the best quality controllers of the university education system are the institutions themselves, because they do that on a daily, more than anyone else coming around and passing by 5 years.
Thank you so much. Dr. Lawrence, your concluding remark.
As for me, thank you, Patrick, for this opportunity. But I want to end by really encouraging and requesting National Council to also do severe advocacy for themselves, to get resources to take care of us. Once we write to them needing them to reassess our program, they should do it in the promised time.
Not
we don't
3
have
years,
to
not
wait
2
3
years.
years. Because once we wait for 2 or 3 years, we end up, people, like the non-patriotic people you talked about, make use of these kind of gaps, and then they taint the entire country to be in this kind of pandemic or problem. So we don't need to be here. So therefore, National Council, help us be better as institutions, but Ugandans, be calm, no panic. This thing is just a matter of misuse of language. There's nothing that can expire like that is a degree. But also be cognizant of the fact that even if the degree does not expire, its value is also debatable. So we need those who are seeking education, seek a degree that is going to leave your child with the skills they can live with and use now and in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawrence Muganga, Vice Chancellor, Victoria University. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah Ssali, Associate Professor, School of Women and Gender Studies, College of Humanities, Makerere University. But most of all, thank you, the viewer, for the privilege of your company. One thing I know, education is the greatest equalizer. Whether you are in UK or in Uganda, if you access education, you are the same level, and that's what we aspire to do. And one thing I've known about Ugandan students, take them anywhere in the top universities around the world, they will graduate, in most cases, on top of their class, on time and on top of their class. What does that tell you about the Ugandan education system? Take heart. Good night and God bless Uganda.